Hello, students. I welcome you to the International Affairs of April month. Now, we will complete this April month first part, second part, then May month, International Affairs, right? Before moving to the economy and polity. So, today we'll discuss international institutions and some country specific news. Starting with first is Intermediate Range Nuclear Force Treaty. Now, this treaty is was signed in 1987, in the Cold War time, right? And it was the time when the arms race was at its fag end. Arms race started in 1960s, when the Cold War at its peak, right? And 1987, it was decided that both countries will limit some of the arms. So it was currently in the news because last year US Donald Trump has decided that this treaty is no longer effective. Russia, which is bound by the treaty, is somehow increasing its arsenal of the missile, and China, which is not bound by the treaty, is obviously increasing its arsenal. So Trump said that why we should be not allowed to increase our arsenal when these countries are anyway increasing. Then this means that this treaty is no longer effective. So that is why they have decided that they will come out of this particular treaty. Now, what was the treaty all about? So, treaty prohibited US and Russia from possessing, producing, and test flying ground launched cruise missile from this range, 500 to 5,000 kilometers. Only the ground launched missiles will be there, not the air launched and the sea launched weapons. Majority of the missiles are only air launched and or only ground launched, isn't it? Many of the missiles that you have studied in the defense also, that India centric missiles, majority we have read, you have seen all the missiles, Agni series and all these series is big high range missiles are taken from the ground range only, right? So that was the issue, that say that even if the treaty is in the force, for example for Russia, which is bound under the treaty, the verification process is very tough. Who will verify that Russia is not developing this? And the China, which is not bound by the treaty, that is already facing the problem, right? So non-compliance of the treaty, obviously, it's one of the biggest problem with all the international treaties. Now we talk about, just to give you an idea, why this in the Cold War time, why the arm control, the noble idea of the arm control has come into being. First, it was the rise of the anti-nuclear movement. Why? Because of Japan, US has dropped bombs on Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, and the effects of this bomb started to show after some years. That goes to show the devastating effect that these arms can have on the lives of the people, intergenerational impact it can have. It can destroy the whole region. Then the Cuban Missile Crisis, there people have seen that how close the things are coming to destroy everything, isn't it? Then Chinese nuclear tests. China in 1964 has conducted its nuclear test, which is supported by the Russia initially, USSR. But both US and USSR realized that they have kept make this nuclear genie out of the bottle. Now China has conducted the 1974. India has conducted its Pokhran 1, right? And finally, the breakdown between Soviet and the Chinese relationship was also an impetus to the arms race. Why? Because Soviet realized that we don't have a Chinese communist ally, and that also led to the Dentete. It is called in the Cold War between the US and the USSR, because Russia lost a strategic ally in the name of China. So these were the relations. These were the reasons that led to the idea of the arms control. So this was the first treaty that during the Donald Trump time, first treaty ended, INF. Now the second treaty, that's the only treaty that is remaining between US and China, US and Russia right now, is New START treaty. Okay, this was signed in 2010 during the Obama regime. Okay, so it was signed in 2010. It is called Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. So it's a nuclear arm reduction treaty between United States and Russia. Its formal name you should also remember: Measure for Further Reduction and Limitation of Strategic Offensive Arms. So if the question in the UPSC will come, question will be coming like this, quote unquote, this is related to. Okay, so option they will give, okay, first option is negotiated in the United Nations. Second option, IAEA will do something like that, something. But it is a bilateral treaty between US and Russia, signed in 2010. They can also ask that this is a Cold War time arms treaty. No, it is not a Cold War time arms treaty, right? So these are the few facts that you need to remember. So let us see what's his formal name. Measures for further reduction and limitation of the strategic offensive arms. So signed in 2010 and entered into force in 2011. And all the treaties are coming with the expiration date. So expiration date is 2021, and now it is looming, threat is looming that it will not be revived after 2021, as INF treaty is already collapsed and the US does not seems to be coming on the table. Now Russia has already threatened in this particular month itself, June month, last month, sorry, last month. Putin has said that we do not he threatens that we will not we will drop this New START treaty, where we should extend this treaty. Okay, there is a provision that this treaty can be extended for 5 more years, but he's saying what is the need, isn't it? So the history of this New START treaty. So it replaced the START 1 treaty, which expired in 2009, and then this new treaty was signed. It superseded 2002 Strategic Offensive Reduction Treaty. Don't have to remember these things because it's not India-centric thing. If the question will be there, it will be a very, very shallow question. Very easy question will be asked. So the treaty actually limited, the very important treaty, it limited the US and Russia's nuclear arsenal to half of the times of Cold War. What it was at the time of Cold War, all the nuclear warheads on the all the missiles are reduced to almost to the extent of half, and that is why these treaty are very significant. So this is the treaty. Just to revise, in 2010 it was signed. It replaced 1991 START treaty. It also superseded 2002 Strategic Offensive Reduction Treaty, and then 2018 both the countries have said, okay, we have followed whatever we have decided with the New START treaty. So 2018 they have finally reduced their arms to around half of what they had at the Cold War time, and it was bound to expire in 2021. So right, so along with it is said that along with INF plus New START treaty, these two were treaties that almost limited the arms reduction. Those were the base of arms reduction in the world, but both of them are now getting out of question. So now it is said that we are entering into an era of new arms race, right? Last year, if you remember, when we performed Mission Shakti also, a lot of articles were written that along with the international order in US and Russia, India also entering into some sort of arms race, right? Okay, then let us see next one. So you are clear, I believe. So we have discussed this INF and START treaty here, and some specific treaty with respect to nuclear, that is CTBT and NPT. I will non-proliferation treaty and CTBT I'll discuss in the May month first session. Okay, international institutions in which I'll discuss those treaties. Next is important one, 6 plus 2 plus 1 group. So the question can come directly. International affairs, if you have seen the question come very directly that this group is in news. It is with reference to what? So it is with reference to the peace and the stability of the Afghanistan only. Okay, so support peace in the Afghanistan. So what is the 6 plus 2 plus 1? So 6 are said to be the neighboring country of the Afghanistan. So they are, which are the neighboring countries? Pakistan, right? China, the border touches here. China, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Iran. You also have to remember the neighboring country. This question can come in UPSC also, because Afghanistan is really, really important. Okay, specifically remember the 3 Central Asian countries which are in that touch: Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. Okay, North Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan is obviously very above, and China does touches. Actually, according to India, it also touches India at this small juncture. You can see here, at this very small juncture, it also touches India, but de facto it is a part of the Gilgit-Baltistan, currently administered by the Pakistan. So India is not a part of it. Remember, India is not part of it. So UN Secretariat held a meeting of 6 plus 2 plus 1. 6 are the neighborhood countries, 2 are the superpowers, global players, you can say US and Russia, and 1 is the Afghanistan itself. So group on the regional efforts to support peace in Afghanistan. Why India is not in it, that's an issue, right? Now you know Afghanistan is also known as the heart of Asia. Why? especially with respect to the security condition if we see in the present time. That is why the security in Afghanistan is said to be um, very critical to the stability and the peace in the whole of the Asia. Okay, next is we're going to read about WHO. Now, those who students who are following us from the start know that we have read about WHO, but again, we'll read it again because WHO is very important. So, established in 1948 as a United Nations specialized agency. Now, you know, international affairs have addressed a lot of specialized agencies, isn't it? Specialized agencies, around 17 specialized agencies are there in United Nations. What is the difference between specialized agency and the United Nations? Other agencies you need to know, we have already discussed that. So coming back to WHO, so basically WHO has three main divisions. First is World Health Assembly, second is Executive Board, and third is the Secretariat. Okay, so you can uh, analogy you can see like that. So analogy you can see it is like a parliament. World Health Assembly, the parliament, supreme decision making body, right, where people meet and they decide everything. Then the Executive Board can be seen as a cabinet or executive, and then Secretariat can be seen as the bureaucracy, isn't it? Now this Health Assembly elects the they not decided that who should be the Director General, and this you have seen him, right? Now he is very famous. For 5 years they decide this person to be the Director General. Now Executive Board is also in the news because Mr. Harshvardhan, our health minister, is heading currently the Executive Board 1 year at a time. We'll discuss Executive Board after this WHO. Okay, so it comprises of the technical expert to oversee the implementation of World Health Organization's function. Then we have a secretariat that takes a responsibility of the day-to-day functions. Okay, the funding of the WHO is also important. Why? Because US has decided that we will take the funding out of, we will not no longer be the part of WHO. That's a big loss for WHO also. So WHO is funded by both SS system and the voluntary contribution. What is this SS system? So SS system is based upon the gross domestic product and the population of a particular country. Okay, so if a country has a very high GDP, they have their contribution will be more. Second is a voluntary contribution. So they are paid by the also the member states. So for example, US is contributing some money through in the form of SS fund and some in the voluntary. Okay, so voluntary coming from the other United Nations organization, private companies, individual NGOs, and those who want to contribute to the WHO. Okay, power and functions, especially with respect to power and function with respect to the sovereignty of the nations are discussed. For example, what are the power and functions of WHO to with respect to the health, which may or may not come at a which may or may not impact the decision of a particular country to take decisions. Okay, so for example, WHO Director General can declare a public health emergency of international concerns, that we have read about it in our in science and tech. When WHO declares it public health emergency of international concern, even if the state experiencing the outbreak objects. For example, if India is objecting to a particular disease that is spreading in us, and WHO decides that we will consider this disease as this PHEIC, then the authority goes to the WHO, right? WHO has the authority to reinforce the requirement the state party shall provide all the justification for trade and travel restrictions that do not conform to WHO's recommendation. So, for example, WHO has recommended something, and the state is not following that, right? So, the state has to provide justification to the WHO. Then this WHO can also force the states to the protection of the human rights. At least these are only the recommendatory power. Okay, these are only the recommendatory power of the WHO, but they can declare it on their own. Okay, and this is unlike WTO. Now in WTO, when the any agreement is signed, that becomes obligatory on the state nations, member states. Why? That is why the dispute resolution and all these things are there, right? Okay, but in WHO everything is recommendatory, and that is one of the problems with the WTO itself. Other than that, there is no single document which comprehensively delineates what are the roles and responsibility of the WHO. because now everyone is finding faults in WHO, right? Because WHO is facing credibility crisis because of this such corona pandemic, such extent of the corona pandemic, the impact it had on the economy, on the very life we are living. Okay, right. So WHO executive board, so it is one of the WHO's top two decision making bodies, the other being WHO health assembly. Mr. Harshvardhan is the chairman currently elected. So this post is being held in rotation for 1 year by each of the world's 6 regional groups, right? So all the 6 regional groups are there, one member from each. This particular, he heads this particular chairman post. So the decisions are, again, what are the produce these kind of documents, not very important for our prelims purposes. Okay, right. So this is that. So what are the problems with WHO in the COVID-19 time? Let us start. Let us discuss a bit. So lack of preparedness, because you also, we have read that SARS was already there many times. Then this MERS was also there. So it know the characteristics of the coronavirus. So lack of preparedness, and many of the countries, many of the recommendations, 2007 there was a report that new kinds of coronaviruses are developing, and it was a WHO's responsibility to um, what we say, predict these things, at least not predict but identify at the initial and take steps. This goes to show the second problem: delay in acknowledgement and the declaration of it as PHEIC was very late. Initially, the advisory, for example, US has restricted the travels restrictions. WHO called it, okay, this is just a stigma, you should not restrict the travel. You can imagine WHO getting things wrong when they have such a huge legacy. They work on these pandemics. They have tackled the problem of Ebola, they have tackled the problem of Nipah and all these things. Then the biggest credibility crisis is faced because of the China. There was no immediate visit by the WHO officials to the China. Taiwan has many times highlighted that from December 2019 itself, Taiwan was highlighting that this sort of virus is developing in China. One should take care. But WHO follows the one China policy. But in the health system, you need to take care of the needs and opinion of all the stakeholders. Taiwan is also a stakeholder. If they are providing some sort of information, the WHO should have taken care of it. Recently, there was an interview coming of an official of the WHO, and a journalist has asked about Taiwan. He just refused to answer it. Right. So that goes to show that even in the domain such as health, where the very risk of the life is at stake, these institutions are politically restrained, isn't it? And that is why US has came out of WHO claiming that WHO is serving only the China's purpose. We are funding it, and we are the majority donor, but China, they are listening to China. So these are the problems. This is a more main centric topic. So once prelims gets over, just focus on these things. This is important. International health regulations. So this can come. International health regulation is in the news. What is this related to? So option 1 WHO, option 2 something like that. It is related to the WHO. It's an agreement between the 196 countries, those who are members of the WHO, to work together for the global health security. Okay, and WHO plays the coordinating role in this, right? So through this agreement, countries have agreed to build their capacity to detect, assess, and report public health events. Okay, so just remember, if this question comes, this can be a tricky question. Why? Because WHO is too much in news, and many international health organizations are in news. So this can be related to anything, but this is related to the very simple WHO. Sometimes we feel, right, if the question in the UPSC is that they want some very specific information, but this is not that. Some questions are relatively easy. Next is very easy. Global Education Coalition. Just remember, it is by the UNESCO has launched it. It is a multi-sectoral partnership involving, when it is a multi-sectoral, then obviously it will be United Nations agencies, international organization, voluntary organizations, civil service organizations, civil society organizations, private sector, philanthropy, like these organizations coming together for the purpose of the education, you can see. Obviously, the context is provided by the COVID-19. Okay. So facilitate the inclusive learning and opportunity for children and the youth during the period of COVID-19. Okay, so just remember it is related to the UNESCO. Next is Milk Tea Alliance. So on a lighter note, it is a pro-democratic front launched by the internet user on the social media from Thailand, Taiwan, and Hong Kong against the authoritarianism of the Chinese government and its supporters. And that's it. Right. So we are done with the institutions. Let us see very quickly the country-specific news. First is not very important, but mandatory code of conduct between media outlets and the digital platform. Media outlet means the local media outlets and the digital platforms such as Google and Facebook and all these things. So code of conduct has been released by the Australia. So Australia has said that these digital giants have to pay some sort of money because a lot of these local media firms are losing out. For example, people do not visit the people. Everyone take the news from Facebook or Google only. They do not visit the proper news website. And when they do not visit the website, they do not get the money for it. For example, AdSense or something. So the Australia has said that these online giants, online platforms, digital platform have to share some sort of a revenue with them. Okay. The model has to be developed, but this is the news from the Australia. Not very important. That's what I said. Next is flogging. So flogging in Saudi Arabia is some sort of a punishment that was given, that is being given in Saudi Arabia. So it recently they have abolished flogging as a crime punishment for crime in Saudi Arabia. Okay. So act of hitting someone with several times with a whip. Now this is a big part of the Saudis' vision of the 2030. Saudi Vision 20. You must have heard of it. So since the time Mr. Bin Salman has been the de facto ruler of the Saudi Arabia, he has come up his own vision to make a vibrant society, a thriving economy, and an ambitious nation. Right? So some of the reforms that you must have heard, that women will be allowed to drive and some sort of more liberty are given to women. They want to increase their investment into the other sectors apart from the oil. So they want to differentiate themselves from the oils. They are learning from UAE how they had developed Dubai as a center, international center. Their main money does not come from UAEs, for example. Their main money does not come mainly from the oil itself. They have diversified their source of income. Similarly, Saudi is also looking to do that. So these are the things that they are doing. Recently, you also know that Saudi and Pakistan relations are getting severe as well. Right? We have discussed one Kuala Lumpur summit, if you remember. Kuala Lumpur summit that we have discussed, that was on the that was chaired by the Malaysia. So new two axes are coming up. Just to tell you some news. So two new axes are coming up in the Islamic world as well. So one axis is Malaysia, Turkey, and some sort of Pakistan. Second group, the old group, that is Saudi, UAE, this old group, right? Iran somehow you can say here only. So this is the old group, old guard. You can say dominated by USA or US allies, something like that. And the second group is this. Now India is getting close to this. Pakistan wants this whole group, including everyone, to erase the issue of Kashmir. Now Malaysia and Malaysia and Turkey will be happy, but Saudi and UAE, which are not developing a very important strategic partnership with India, they have said no, we will not raise the issue of Kashmir at OIC. In fact, Indian foreign minister was invited to the OIC. You remember that. So this new axis which is emerging in the Islamic world, it is going to be very interesting time. Now we have read about in Kuala Lumpur summit that Saudi has said that Pakistan, you should not go to that summit. And Pakistan said, okay, fine, we will not go to it. But recently, Pakistan foreign minister has said that, sir, we have to, sir, we want to go in, please start this Kashmir issue on this OIC forum. But Saudi has said, no, we will not do that. And after that, Saudis are very enraged at the comment of this Pakistani foreign minister. And they have said that give us our money back. So a lot of controversy in Pakistan. So just for international affairs stuff. So we are done with the session. Let us quickly revise what we have read. Started with the INF Treaty. So INF Treaty and New START Treaty, two of the treaties that form the backbone of the current new arms control system. Both of them will not be defunct. INF already US has withdrawn. New START treaty, there is very little possibility that it will be extended after 2021. We have discussed that what are the factors that were there for the arms control. Then we've discussed 6 plus 2 plus 1 group, 6 countries which are surrounding the Afghanistan, 2 countries, US and Russia, and 1 country that is Afghanistan itself. So next is WHO. We discussed in detail about WHO. So WHO, World Health Assembly Executive Board, and the Secretariat, 3 divisions. What are the functions of WHO? Very generic in nature. This becomes important. International health regulation becomes important. Okay. Next, Global Health Coalition, that is a UNESCO led initiative, multi-sectoral initiative for inclusive learning and education. Then Milk Tea Alliance, and then we have discussed the country specific news, that is mandatory code of conduct between the media outlets and the digital platform, and the flogging. Okay, a kind of punishment given to the people. So with this we finish our session. See you in the next class, everyone. Bye bye for now. So this is done with international part 1. In the part 2 we will discuss some bilateral things and some initiatives and some more international affairs centric news. Okay, so in the next class, bye bye, thank you.